Namaste everyone. Thank you for joining in this video. So today I'll be discussing about the aspects of Venus. Okay, so I've discussed in my previous videos, I've discussed the aspects of the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and today this is the time for Venus. The aspects of Venus. So Venus has only one aspect. That means it has the direct aspect. Okay, it aspects the seventh house from wherever it sits. And what is Venus? Venus is the planet of love, relationships, beauty, art, luxury, and so on. Okay, and it is also representative of how we express ourselves in a relationship. Okay, the way we surround ourselves with material wealth, that is also seen through Venus. Okay, and it is the karaka for marriage for both men and women. But in a male chart, it also shows the personality and profession of your spouse, including how they will meet. All right. So Venus is what we desire in our life, and the aspect of Venus shows the result of our desires and unions with other people. Okay. So as I said, Venus has only one aspect, and it aspects the seventh house from where it sits. Okay. So let's go through Venus and the houses. All right. So Venus in the first house, it aspects from the first house. It'll aspect the seventh house of marriage, spouse, legal partners, relationships, and how we deal with others. Okay. So the first house is about self, personality, health, and ego. And Venus in the first house will give one the desire to look beautiful for themselves and the society. Okay, so outside of beauty, these people, they also have a love for finance, luxury, and fine foods. Okay, they use their body to perform artistic acts like dancing, acting, and modeling, and usually these people are very self-absorbed. Okay, so these people, they love to be admired and adored by others, and this quality is usually more prominent in a female chart. But if a male chart has Venus in the first house, then that Venus actually gives confidence to the man to meet his spouse on his own. Okay, for example, you'd find people with this placement walking up to a woman at a gym, maybe at a restaurant. Okay, and these people will also have a tendency to participate in beauty contests. Okay, so without any assistance from other people. Okay, so from the first house, Venus aspects the seventh house, and this aspect brings tremendous desire and passion to connect with others, to find love and relationships. Okay, and Venus in the house of self, it makes one to reach out to others, to feel desired and wanted. All right, and if this placement is happening in case of a male chart, it makes the male, it creates a very urge, it creates a very it creates a very compelling need in the male to to feel confident and at ease only when they are in a relationship with the other female, with another female. Okay, so these people, they seek a spouse who is beautiful, who is confident, and they want their spouse to increase their attractiveness when together. That means they would want to look good with the spouse whenever they are pictured together, whenever they are seen together with the spouse. Okay, so this aspect on the seventh house for Venus is about caring for and providing luxury to others, because the seventh house is the house of the other. So this aspect also makes the native very sensual, who wants to fulfill their partner's sexual needs. Okay, they search for a partner to feel admired and desired, which can actually make a relationship quite difficult. Okay, because a relationship is always a two-way street. All right, and there is a video that I've put out on the truth about relationships just before this video. Please go and watch that video on how how relationship karma unfolds here. All right. So now Venus in the second house. In the second house, Venus aspects the eighth house of joint assets, in-laws, occult, death, rebirth, transformation, sudden events, surgeries, and taxes. And Venus feels very comfortable in the second house of family, food, home, wealth, family assets, valuables, speech, and family businesses. Okay, so these people, they enjoy a closely knit family environment, and they usually find pleasure in domestic life. Okay, so the native's voice is very, very pleasant, soothing, and perhaps even feminine. Okay, so there is a natural flair for singing, but this usually happens when Venus joins Mercury in the second house. And the native will have a love for collecting jewelry, artifacts, gemstones, and so on. So when it comes to food, these people love sweets. Okay, but then this placement can also make people, can make the native overly extravagant. Okay, where money is wasted on useless art, antique items, and cultural decorations. Okay, so Venus does not feel the consequences of its actions as long as it possesses valuables. Okay, so a woman with this placement can have high standards when it comes to her lifestyle and even after marriage. Okay, and if a man is having this placement, then he will meet his wife or spouse in a family setting, or is introduced to the future spouse through a family member. Okay, now from the second house, Venus aspects the eighth house. So Venus in the second house, it desires you know joint family assets and increased wealth through marriage. Okay, and the native feels that through family, you know they can conquer the in-laws because of the value he or she has brought to the table. Okay, so there is also a desire for the native to negotiate with money and assets in a secretive manner. All right, and Venus with displacement makes married life and relationship with the spouse's family very pleasant. So Venus also finds pleasure through occult knowledge. Okay, this usually does not make the native an astrologer or tantric guru. Okay, but they feel that occult knowledge is important, so they might end up visiting astrologers and tantrics whenever they come into some problems in the family or in the marriage. Okay, so the desire of Venus to gain wealth through valuables can also make the native go into professions like mining gems, or even gold mining or diamond mining, so as to say. All right, now Venus in the third house. So in the third house, what does the third house represent? It represents younger siblings, media, acting, hobbies, initiative, journalism, and skills. So from the third house, Venus aspects the ninth house of higher education, divine knowledge, teachings of the guru and father, religion, scriptures, and long distance travel. So Venus finds pleasure in artistic talents like painting, sculpting, and acting. And these people, they have a flair for reporting and announcing events. This is something that they really, really enjoy. So communication becomes their passion, and Venus brings great relationships among siblings, close friends, and neighbors. Okay, so there is also a great placement. This is also a great placement for for having skills in design and sewing. Okay, so Venus also brings essential look to marketing and public relations. Okay, if these people are marketing and public relations, then they can actually use this sensuality to get their work done. Okay, so the native can be creatively present in any kind of story. Okay, in fact, these people, they master the art of storytelling. Okay, and if it's happening in the chart of a male, then the male will actually meet the spouse or the wife through a sibling, or through an artistic or media related event. Okay, so in the third house, Venus aspects the ninth house. So this aspect shows the desire of Venus to use higher education and philosophical knowledge to be more creative with one's skills in art and media. So Venus from the from the house of hobbies and artistic talent, it wants to learn religious text and philosophy in an artistic manner. They want to, these people, they want to make their work of higher spiritual value. And Venus will give the native the inclination towards finding a guru or mentor to improve their work. And there would also be a desire to travel to foreign places to enhance their artistic mind and improve upon their skills by learning about different societies. Okay, now Venus in the fourth house, this is a very good placement for Venus to be in, because Venus gets Digbala in the fourth house. So from the fourth house, Venus aspects the 10th house of career, status, reputation, relationship of the father, and so on. Okay, so in the fourth house, Venus has, as I said, it has Digbala, because because the fourth house represents comfort and luxury. Okay, the fourth house also represents land, the nourishment from the mother, and the childhood of the native. So this placement brings comfort and appreciation for art and beauty through one's mother. Okay, so these people, they usually discover creative talent and artistic skills through the presence of the mother, and the mother may also be into designing, modeling, or interior decorating. Okay, So, the mother is responsible for making the native into a beautiful person. Okay. And there is a great passion for making the home a place where relationships can nurture, can develop, and flourish. Okay. And if a male has this placement, then he can actually meet his wife in a domestic setting through his parents, okay, through his mother, or even through, even by going to art school. All right. So Venus in the 10th, sorry, in the 4th house, it will aspect the 10th house of career. And the 10th house is also about finishing work. Okay. So this aspect makes Venus utilize its creativity within a home setting and make a career out of it. Okay. Maybe like a real estate agent or landscape artist or interior designer and decorator. So one also has a great need to form professional relationships and climb the ladder of success, which generally happens unless Venus is damaged. Okay. And if Venus is, is combust or is under malefic aspects, then it will actually make people insult the native professionally. Okay, so the aspect of Venus on the 10th house actually shows that there is great accommodation in the professional sphere, and beautiful relationships are formed that allow the native to excel and make home a very, very comfortable place to stay. Okay, so Venus in the 5th house, again, this is very, very good. So in the 5th house or from the 5th house, Venus aspects the 11th house, which stands for gains, hopes, desires, aspirations, network circles, large organizations, and increased authority. Okay, so the 5th house, it represents creativity, academic achievements, children, politics, and performing arts. And Venus, it brings great passion and interest in the arts, but especially performing arts. Okay, so Venus is the natural actor, all right, and it brings the talent and flair for the stage and seeks attention and praise. So there is tremendous desire for romance and love as well. So this position brings many romantic affairs which inspire creativity and self-expression. And Venus is not about, academics unless it is related to creativity, like art. So even in politics, there is a desire to lead and to be a leader, all right? And these politicians usually stand out due to their, you know, dramatic personalities. Sometimes the personalities can become too overwhelming as well. All right. And if it is happening, and if displacement is happening in case of a male, then such a person can meet his wife in a creative setting or political arena or maybe at art school. Okay. So from the 5th house, Venus aspects the 11th house, and this aspect, it actually gives Venus the desire to connect with others in a large group setting where their creative talent shines and helps them to, network their way up the ladder of success. Okay, and during the Mahadasha and Antardasha of Venus, their wishes are actually fulfilled by interacting with people and showing their creative talent in large organizations. Okay, so these people, they want to change society, and they also want to make a difference through their art. All right, and Venus periods for these people can also bring a lot of monetary gains. Okay, and it can also give them a lot of professional gains too. All right. So Venus in the 6th house. So from the 6th house, Venus aspects the 12th house of losses, foreign lands, spirituality, meditation, imagination, jails, hospitals, and monasteries. Okay. So 6th house is a bad place for Venus to be in because it is the Marankan Sthan for Venus. It is the house of competition. And Venus is one planet that cannot endure competition. Okay. And being the Karaka of relationships, Venus in the 6th house can lead to constant disagreements with people, especially with the spouse. So the 6th house is about lower ranking and unprivileged people. That means people who work under you. Okay, so there is a natural desire to engage in relationships with servants, janitors, maybe trash collectors, or someone living in extreme poverty. Okay, so Venus wants to be a savior in the 6th house, and it shows that such people, you know, value relationships a lot. Okay, it shows that such people value relationships a lot. And 6th house is also the house of pets, so there is a tremendous love for animals, especially dogs. And these people, they find luxury by being in the presence of medical professionals or those who are willing to serve for a higher cause. Okay, so Venus can make one follow the path of medicine, healing, or acts of service. And in marriage, as I said, the native will suffer due to constant disagreements, battles, and arguments with the spouse over silly things. Okay, and usually if a male is having this placement, then the spouse will be found working in a hospital or a non-profit organization or working with animals or maybe at a courthouse. Okay, So from the sixth house, Venus aspects the 12th house, and this aspect can actually make one an alcoholic or drug abuser. Okay, so these people will want to escape the battlefield and seek sexual pleasure, spirituality, and foreign travel as a way to cope with everyday obstacles. Okay, so there is hardly ever any luxury in the life of the native, and even if they have everything, they will not feel fortunate. Okay, so this can actually make them overspend and get into debt, because the sixth house represents expenses and losses. And through the career choice of the sixth house, one can frequently visit hospitals and jails to heal others or provide medical assistance. Okay, so the desire of Venus for food, drinks, and sensuality can lead to diabetes or sexually transmitted diseases, especially if Venus is debilitated or combust, or is in an enemy sign. So Venus finds artistic talent by escaping into an energized world of imagination in the 12th house. All right. And one with displacement is bound to have many romantic relationships, maybe in foreign lands, or or through travel. For example, the native is traveling by train, and then all of a sudden he or she gets into a relationship with the co-passenger. So this can happen. Okay. Okay. So next is Venus in the in the seventh house. So from the seventh house, Venus aspects the first house or the ascendant, which is of course representative of the body, personality, health, ego, and vitality. Okay, the seventh house, it represents marriage, legal partnerships, trade, business, and and other people, as well as courts. Okay, so Venus is the karaka for the seventh house, and because it is the karaka, it actually brings tremendous pleasure through the spouse and through all legal partnerships. Okay, so the spouse of the native will be very creative and will be into designing, art, acting, or modeling. And for this position, if it is happening for a male, there will be tremendous growth in a man's career after marriage, because the wife will promote his status. Okay, so luxury is gained by signing contracts and making agreements. For a female, the husband will also be creative and maybe a singer or designer, unless and until there is an influence of another planet over Venus. So from the first house, sorry, from the seventh house, Venus will aspect the first house. So this actually gives the native a desire to learn about themselves through their spouse. The personality is about beauty, luxury, and art. Okay. The male native is usually influenced by others about women, how they should look and how they should behave. And women outside of the family play a huge role in shaping the personality of the native, regardless of sex. Okay, the male will also have feminine qualities. He would enjoy looking his best and would constantly try to impress others with his physical beauty. Okay, the native can also go into fashion designing or modeling, and this aspect is mainly about the tremendous influence that the spouse brings upon the personality of the native. Okay. Now Venus in the eighth house, it aspects the second house of family, wealth, food, savings, speech, culture, history, and family lineage. Okay, so the eighth house also represents occult knowledge, secrets, government access, in-laws, sudden events, accidents, surgeries, and transformations like reincarnation. Okay. And Venus in the eighth house, it produces secret affairs and relationships for for the native throughout life. And this is something which is inescapable. It's like a drida karma that refuses to a drida karma that refuses to go away. Okay, so Venus in the eighth house is also about love and sexual relationships and business. So these people, they will have situations arising where business partners and formal relationships will be executed in a very secret manner. Okay, so Venus in the eighth house is like pouring honey in a gutter, but then on the flip side, it actually provides some good opportunities, such as a solid relationship and wealth through in-laws. Okay, if a male is having this relation, if a male is having this placement, then he would actually meet his wife in a very secretive manner. Okay, but then such a male would also gain tremendous wealth through his wife's family. And this placement of Venus makes a person highly sexual and flirtatious. They are very secretive with their romantic relationships, and they can have multiple romantic relationships. Okay, so in the second house, Venus in the eighth house aspects the second house of family, wealth, food, speech, and assets. And this placement shows a desire to accumulate family wealth through secret sources or even through private dealings. Okay, so these people, they don't want to share their financial status or source of wealth, and gains usually come through dealings with the government. Okay, maybe with the underworld people in the underworld, maybe with the lottery, and even with the assets of in-laws. Okay, so one has a deep enjoyment of the occult, and he or she can hope to attain wealth and assets through their belief. Okay, so if Venus is in his own sign or exalted, then such a native can have tremendous healing power and the ability to transform lives. Okay, but then if Venus is damaged by being combust or by being aspected through malefics, then these people may suffer through in-laws and also an abusive married life. Okay, so what they do is, if such a case happens, they turn to their family for help. Okay, so if Venus is in Rahu's nakshatra or Mercury's nakshatra, then molestation in childhood or maybe sexual assault by a family member can also be seen by this aspect of Venus. Okay, so then Venus in the ninth house, it aspects the third house of wealth, media, skills, hobbies, sales, marketing, siblings, journalism. Okay, so what does the ninth house represent? It represents our higher self, gurus, teachers, fathers' teachings, abiding by the law, rituals, and religion. The ninth house is also about philosophical ideas. That means higher philosophical ideals, basically. So, Venus in the ninth house gives great pleasure in religious knowledge and rituals. Okay, Venus also makes one sustain good relationships with religious and educational figures. And this is a great position for wealth through higher education, religious activity, and teaching. Okay, so the native is usually raised in a religious family, especially if Venus is the ascendant lord and is placed in the ninth house. And such people, they can find love in religious places and with religious figures. Maybe they will fall in love with their own guru or teachers and meet their spouse in an educational or religious setting. Okay, so usually the spouse also comes from a very religious family, and there is a natural love for ritual, spirituality, and philosophy. Okay, so Venus becomes more spiritual than religious when it comes to advanced studies. Okay, so from the ninth house, Venus aspects the third house. So here, in through this aspect, Venus desires to create art and music based on higher knowledge and philosophical ideals. So if a native becomes a designer, there would be a very high value put on clothes with philosophical and spiritual reasons behind the work. Okay, so if they become painters or actors, they would always want to create work of higher value with a touch or undercurrent of religion or philosophy. Okay, so Venus in the 10th house, not a very good place for Venus to be, because Venus is Jala Tattva and 10th house is the house we finish work. Okay, so Venus in the 10th house can actually be detrimental for you to complete your work on time. Okay, so in the 10th house of career, status, reputation, government, and father, from the 10th house, Venus will aspect the fourth house of home, mother, motherland, and mother's nourishment. Okay, so it can bring great pleasure to a native in climbing the ladder of corporate success. And the native usually loves forming relationships with professional people who bring luxury and wealth to their lives. Okay, a man seeks a woman of status and forms a relationship with them. And generally a man with this placement will find his wife through his profession. Okay, Venus is placed in its own sign or in the sign of Leo and Gemini. These people, they can have a natural flair for cinema. Okay, generally Venus in the 10th house, it leads to hotel management and graphic design. And in the 10th house of father, the native may discover his father to be a creative individual with some feminine qualities. Okay, so from the 10th house, Venus aspects the fourth house. So one's creativity in the professional world translates into their domestic life. Okay, so a professional Venus aspect shows that the native's wife will be professional and domestic and will enrich her home. And the native's mother may be a creative person that invokes or provides artistic talent within the native. So for these people, home is a very beautiful and safe place to live in, because Venus desires to insulate itself from the strain of the outside world. So Venus in the 11th house, very, very good position for Venus to be in. Okay, so from the 11th house, it aspects the fifth house of children, schooling, creativity, performing arts, and romance. Okay, and what does the 11th house represent? It represents gains, network circles, marketplaces, and large corporations and organizations. So the native usually has, many female friends, and they help them to achieve goals. Okay. So, Venus, being the Karaka of luxury in the house of gains, brings tremendous wealth in the life of a native if Venus is well placed. Okay. Usually, a man will meet his wife in a large organized setting like corporate and political events or seminars. Okay. So, the 11th house is the best placement for Venus with regards to wealth. Okay. And from the 11th house, it aspects the 5th house. So, this brings creative ways to use network circles for gains through orders. One can find many opportunities in performing arts and working in cinema. Okay. So, this placement also ensures gains through children, especially a female child, right? So, one tends to enjoy playing the stock, playing in the stock market and gambling, and the native will have many romantic opportunities or encounters before settling down with someone else. Okay. And there will also be many opportunities to find love for the native through network circles even after being married. Okay. So now Venus as Venus in the 12th house. So this is the best position for Venus to be in, because the 12th house is about unconditional love, and the main agenda of Venus is to shower each and everyone you meet with unconditional love. Okay. So what is the sixth? From the 12th house, Venus actually aspects the 6th house. So what is the 6th house? It represents deaths, enemies, diseases, small animals, disagreements, and obstacles. And the 12th house, it represents imaginations, foreign lands, spirituality, and isolated places like jails, hospitals, monasteries, and asylums. So Venus is usually exalted in the 12th house of peace, Pisces. And even without looking at the sign placement, one can say that these people find pleasure in artistic imagination through yoga, meditation, and visiting foreign lands. Okay, so such people, they love private and quiet places to eat, relax, drink, and maybe form relationships. Okay, so for a male having this placement, he will find his wife in foreign lands or isolated places, and there is tremendous artistic talent that comes through astral imagination and connection with the spirit world. Okay, so these people usually tend to believe that everyone is their soulmate and love. Okay, and they believe that love needs to be universal and spiritual rather than physical and material. And a man can actually end up discovering his wife, that his wife is an enemy instead of his fantasy woman, because the 12th house is the sixth from the 7th house. Okay, and sixth from any house becomes the enemy of that house. All right, so this is by the principle of Bhavad Bhavam, right? So the 12th house is also about losses and expenses, and this placement can bring monetary loss and expenses to one's spouse, who can be a very, very big spendthrift. So from the 12th house, Venus aspects the 6th house. So this brings great desire to help those dealing with obstacles and bad health by providing healing and spiritual blessings. Okay, so this is one of the prominent positions for healers to be in. So Venus can also obtain healing powers and want to work in hospitals and asylums to help those who cannot help themselves. And when it comes to creativity, these people, they always add an element of sickness and health in their art. Okay, so they want to connect with people in poverty through non-profit organizations, and divine spiritual energy transfers through a female to give a helping hand to those less fortunate. Okay, so women with such placement are highly or very sensitive to psychic and intuitive powers while serving the society. Okay, so this is about about the various aspects of Venus from house 1 till house 12. Hope you could relate to some of it from your chart. Of course, not all of it will be related, but I hope that you do let me know in the comment section as to how you experience this video. Okay, and for those who have not subscribed to this channel, kindly like the content, subscribe to my channel, and you know keep following me for more stuff. Okay, so I'll see you soon in the next video. And if you want a consultation or if you want a reading based on your current situation or circumstances, kindly get in touch with me at the number given in the description box. All right then. Om Gurave Namaha.